For a lot of keen fishers, an estuary session begins with some time spent gathering their own bait. And that's what I'm doing this morning. I've got the yabby pump out and I'm working the shallow edges, pumping the more likely looking burrows in search of some live bait. I've made an entire episode about how to do this, and I'll put the links to it up top and down below. Fortunately, it doesn't take me too long to collect enough bait today. It's important to take only as much as you need. And then I'm off to my chosen fishing spot. G'day, Starlo here. Pink nippers, bass yabbies, one-armed bandits, whatever you want to call them, they're one of the most popular and productive baits in our estuaries and even off the beaches and in inshore waters. These burrowing crustaceans from the intertidal zone are available around a big part of the Australian coastline, and a lot of anglers love pumping them for bait. I spent half an hour this morning pumping a few, and I've got them there in my live bait container, but I've also got a packet of this stuff. Now, over the last year or so, I've made quite a few videos featuring fish bites. It's an American-made synthetic bait. It's biodegradable and non-toxic, and I've been catching a lot of fish on it. I don't think it's quite as good as most of your natural baits, and especially not as live or fresh local baits, but gee, it's convenient having a couple of packets of this in your bag at all times. So they've just come out with a new flavour, bass yabby pink nipper, specifically suited to match the same bass yabbies and pink nippers that we get here in Australia. Luckily, they also get a thing in America called a ghost shrimp that is exactly the same critter. So they matched it up, and I'm going to try it side by side today. I'm going to fish real bass yabbies or pink nippers on one rod, and some of this fish bites bass yabby and pink nipper formula on the other rod. Identical rigs, slightly different hooks because this stuff's suited to a shorter shank style hook, but I'm fishing the same area. I'm up on some flats here in about a metre of water to start with, and I'm going to put a bass yabby out and I'm going to put a fish bites bait out. I've got to tell you, my money's on the real McCoy, but we'll see how it pans out. This stuff comes in long strips with a consistency not unlike the old Wrigley's chewing gum strips, but tougher, thanks to a thin cloth matrix running through the centre. I like to cut a piece about 5 or 6 centimetres long using my braid scissors. Then I cut diagonally along the strip from one corner to the other. This produces 2 triangular strips of bait. It's then simply a matter of pinning your short-shanked hook once through the thicker end of the triangle, exactly like I'm doing here. That's it. Ready to fish, and I'm straight into it. I'm getting bites on both. That's really interesting. Ooh, the yabby's getting a bit more activity than the fish bites, but they both had a bite at the same time. That's really interesting. The baits are fairly close together up there on the flats, so I guess a school of fish may have come across. Oh, there we go. There's one on the yabby. Oh, I'll put my foot on the other one. Doesn't feel like anything huge. And that is the problem with using pink nippers or yabbies. You do get a lot of small fish on them. Oh, I think it's a whiting. No, it's a bream. And that's what I don't like about bait fishing, is swallowed the hook. So I'm actually just going to cut that quite close to his mouth, and hopefully I'll be able to get rid of the hook. It's got a better chance of getting rid of it if you leave it in there rather than trying to dig it out. There was definitely a couple of bites on the fish bites. I'll check them. No. Alright, well, the fish bites are still very much intact. It started to soften up and get slimy from being in the water, but that cloth matrix in the middle of it will hold it together really nicely. All right, I'll shoot it back out there, put another hook on the other one, put another yabby on, and we'll continue. And while the action certainly wasn't fast and furious, the bites did come. Oh, yep. There's another one for the yabby, and I've only had that one bite so far on the fish bites. It's another little brim, or is it a tarwine? No, it's a brim. I struck a bit quicker this time, so made sure I didn't let him swallow the hook. Well, 2-0 to the real thing at the moment. All right, I'll get another couple of yabbies on there and get them out. I definitely just had a bite on the fish bites, but it was just one bite and it didn't come back. That's interesting. So far nothing has touched the real yabbies on this cast. I'll just pick up the rod with the fish bites and just move it a little bit. Sometimes a bit of movement does the trick, but not this time. Seems fine. Back to the waiting game. It's pretty quiet here on the flats. The fish are either here or they're not, and I think today they're not. I was expecting to get whiting, brim, flathead. It can be quite a productive flat at times, but there just doesn't seem to be a lot of life here. So I think what I'll do is I'll move to some deeper water and try these two baits side by side. I made a move, but only to slightly deeper water, and straight away I was into another fish on the real yabbies. They were certainly doing the job. What do we got this time? Once again, it proved to be an undersized brim. There's no doubt that these baits attract plenty of action, but you have to accept that a lot of what you hook will be small fry. It can be a little bit annoying at times, but always treat these little fellas with respect and put them back to keep growing. See you in a couple of years. That feels a bit better. Well, the real bait scores again. This is about 4 or 5 now. I've had a couple of bites on the fish bites, but I haven't hooked one yet. This feels like it might be our first keeper, perhaps. Not sure what this is. Probably another brim. It's not a bad fish. It's quite a good fish. Oh, it's gone under the boat. Oh, it's a beautiful blackfish. Worth getting the net out for this one. It's a cracker. You don't just get them on weed. Oh, he won't give up. A fair bit of tidal run here too, which is making it tricky. Oh, seriously. There we go. Ah, beautiful luderick or blackfish on the pink nippers. Look at that. I'll definitely be taking that one home to eat. Just beautifully pinned in the corner of the jaw too. Well, so far I've got to say the natural bait is doing the job, and that's hardly a surprise. I mean, it's great to have the convenience of the fish bites, but it's very hard to go past bait that you catch or gather yourself, especially in an estuary situation like this. I'll get this guy in the live well. And next bait I was on again to another halfway decent fish. Flathead. Probably a good chance he'll chew me off. Better slip the net under him, I guess. And you guessed it. It's on the reel bait. Yeah, that's legal. Measure it. They've got to be 36 centimetres in New South Wales, but I rarely keep them under 40. It's legal, but I'm going to let it go. Well, that had certainly been interesting. I've done really well on fish bites in the past, as you'll see from the links that I've shared, but it wasn't there day to day. And in line with my pledge to keep it real, that's exactly what I've shown you. The truth. Of course, next time could be a completely different story. Anyway, until then, tight lines, and do check out these other 2 episodes where the fish bites more than held their own. Cheers for now.